Welcome back to the Business Simple podcast. I have a very special guest here with me today. He is the CEO and founder of WHITEFOX with 12 and soon to be 13, which we'll touch on shortly, offices across Australia and New Zealand. Judge on the Block Australia, built and sold the app Touchbase, which I didn't realize until before I was doing my research for this, and has over $40 million in property flips. Like I said, I've never had so much fun researching someone before this. Marty Fox, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. You forgot dad of three.
Yeah, I've got a
husband
question.
To Charlotte.
Yeah, I've got a question about that for sure. I don't know if you've seen anything, but I have an 8-month-old, and so thank you. Yeah, it's the best. But I'm currently going through that dichotomy of like trying to balance everything and how you prioritize. One thing I love about you and what you do is your personal brand and the way that you bring family into that. I think it's so easy to make that just a work thing, but the authenticity I think that you have with yours and the way that everything about your life is included in it is really, really well done.
Thank you.
No worries. I know you won't have listened to any episodes before. What we typically do is we go through someone's story, and I know we've got to be a bit time conscious. Can you just take me through in a short sort of way how someone, young like you are, gets to the point that you are in the time that you have done it, builds the brand that you're doing along the way? What's that process been like? How did you start out in real estate, and what were the steps that you took?
Yeah, I think I was very good at doing multiple things at once. And for me, I studied at Otago. So I did my degree down in Dunedin. Ended up back in Melbourne. At that point in time, my girlfriend, Charlotte, who's now my wife, her father had a real estate agency and it was the GFC. So I couldn't get a job at a Deloitte or a PwC or a Clemenger for marketing. So I fell into property like a lot of people did. But through that journey, I was making coffees, I was doing odd jobs, I was finding prams on the side of the street, fixing them up, putting them up at the supermarket. I was hustling. And I always had it in me, which is probably why I got a job selling Cookie Time, when I was at uni as well. So I loved sales, I loved pitching, and that came from being at 7 different schools as well. As a kid, if you go to 7 different schools, you always have to re-pitch and try and make new friends. So I was comfortable with just meeting people and talking. So going into Melbourne, I landed into real estate, and from there, what I wanted to do was just give everything 100%. So, I wanted to, go out. I wanted to network. I wanted to, connect with people that I hadn't connected with before. And I was going back into Melbourne without this massive network. So I thought real estate was actually quite a smart thing because I was actually meeting people and meeting high net worths at that point in time. And I just wanted to be memorable. So I made sure that everyone that I did business with, I would always say, I'm your guy. I'm the one that, you speak to for anything relating to real estate. But after about 6 months, I saw a gap in the market and I thought it's actually not that efficient when it came to data collection. The iPad came out, I read Richard Branson's book, and I wanted to, feel that entrepreneurial flair, which I wasn't getting out of real estate. I felt like a little bit of a failure, going to uni and then standing on doors collecting names and numbers. I wasn't comfortable with being a real estate agent. Yeah. And a lot of people have that in real estate. They feel like they've failed. It's a funny thing. If you speak to agents, they'll tell you. They're not super proud about it. And I certainly wasn't at the time. So I invented the first open for inspection software in Australia. So I built it. I won't get into how I built it. But I ultimately sold that product for just under $1 million 6 months later. Yeah, so I went from, 21, no money in the bank to quite a substantial amount of money in the bank and a contract to work in software for 2 years. Yeah. So I left the industry and realized how much I missed it and then ended up coming back.
Yeah, right.
So, I've always run multiple parallels, even whilst doing Touchbase and real estate. I've always flipped property with Charlotte. I'm a real property enthusiast, and I love finding, deals. And there's an art to buying real estate cheap, and there's an art to selling real estate for an expensive price.
Yeah, sure.
I've cracked the code on what to look for and how to sell it properly.
Yeah. Talking about that expensive price thing, something that stood out to me when I was doing my homework prior to this was the not selling any properties under $1 million for that first year of WHITEFOX.
Well, you got to understand, Melbourne is like the pinnacle of auctioning worldwide. Yeah. So there are more properties sold via the auction method in the public sort of forum out on the street in Melbourne than any other city in the world, right?
Yeah, right.
So Melbourne auctioneers are also the agent, which is very different as well. So, Melbourne is a city that's, real estate's like a pastime. People will get a coffee on the weekend, go watch a couple auctions, go to the footy. Like, it's actually a thing that people love to go and spectate. You don't have to register to bid. Anything can happen. It's very, very random.
Yeah, sure.
And Melbourne was run by boutique brands. So the franchises didn't really have the marketplace. It was 4 or 5 very, very high-end boutiques and then everyone else. So for me to enter into that market and become a player, I had to only take on luxury stock. Yeah. And at the time that was, at least $1 million plus. Yeah. And I was coming out of a market that was only apartments. So I had to reinvent myself overnight. New brand, new price point, new location, new phone number. Yeah. And I did all of that. But in that first year, I remember we generated, it would have been over 2.3 or 2.4 million in fees. Yeah. And that was substantial in 2017. Yeah. And I also debunked a lot of different theories on social media, video marketing, tone of voice, the visual aesthetic of the brand, a lot of different things that I bucked the trend on, print media. So we stood out, but we backed it up through the results. Yeah. And that's when attention, eyeballs, influence all started to happen.
Yeah, sure. Can you talk to me a little bit about that marketing thing? I learnt about the who was Marty Fox flyer drop when you first started out in real estate, and I thought that was probably for someone at that stage in their real estate career one of the. I love marketing, right? Like I'm sure you can get. I just love it. I'm just addicted to it, and the stuff that I've been watching you guys do over the last couple of years to go from watching you to sitting opposite you right now is really special to me. Talk to me about what makes your brain work like that, and then maybe even what role your brother has in that process for you.
Well, my brother's been with me now for a little over a year, but he's been with me for my whole life, or for most of it. I'm just really receptive and I'm extremely curious, and I look at everything. I'm a very visual person. So, I'll walk into a room or I'll look at a brand or I'll watch something, and if something stands out, I've got this ability to look at that thing that's made me notice it and figure out how can I repurpose it. Yeah. And that's just how I'm built. I, like you, absolutely love marketing. I didn't study real estate. I studied marketing. Yeah. And if you actually look at how I do my property flips, I started flipping one-bedders. I'm now flipping, properties that are $13, $14, $15 million. Yeah. And it's got the exact same process. You look at properties that are poorly marketed. They're the ones that you buy. Yeah, right. And then the ones that you market the best are the ones that get the most engagement. More engagements, more inspections, more offers is more money. So from a marketing perspective, I just look at everything, but I also want to make sure if I think of the brand's pillars, everything that we do is bold, it stands out, it's polished, it's well put together, but it's matter of fact. So the brand's pillars are very, very clear. And being matter of fact is really underrated. Being really clear with your message, being really clear with your communication is what can get people to really adapt to what you're putting out. They can understand it, they get it, they go, oh, that's quite good. We put out a billboard earlier this year.
I was going to ask you about this. One of my favourite campaigns.
This billboard went viral. Yeah. All throughout Australia. We were on the Today Show. People were in uproar. And all I stated was exactly what you would employ an agent to do. So the billboard was WHITEFOX, making homes more expensive since 2017. So simple. But yet this generated, it was something like 30 odd million hits. And again, it was just being matter of fact, but being bold enough to put it out there. And I think being a small business, we had the benefit of very limited red tape, and we still have limited red tape. I'm still sole shareholder of the parent company, which means that decisions can be made. And what's the approval process? It's speak to your C-suite, see if they think it's good. If they get a little bit scared, I like that. And then bang, it goes out. But it'll all come back down to, if it's not bold, we won't do it. If it's not polished, we won't do it. And if it's not matter of fact, we won't do it. All 3 have to be in line. Sure. One pillar is not stronger than the other.
Do you ever this is just a question from me personally, do you ever just get scared about some of the stuff that you do?
I've always said, like, unless there's a gun to my head, what is there to be scared about? Like, everyone's perception's different. Everyone's got anxieties. Everyone's got their own insecurities. Everyone's got their own problems. Everyone's feeling it themselves. Between the years, that's where all the magic happens, and that's also where all the pain sits.
Yeah.
So, for me, if I get ridiculed for something, it's actually very rare for me to feel the effects of that, because before I do anything, I speak a lot behind the scenes. I speak to my wife, who's got a great ability to read the play. I speak to my sales directors. I speak to the C-suite. I speak to my brother. I speak to random and say, what do you think of this? So I've got a really open dialogue behind the scenes. So when I pull the trigger on something, I want to be a sniper. Yeah. I don't want to have a machine gun. I want to hit it and hit it once and hit it well. And I think that's what's built a lot of credibility behind the brand, is that if we do pull the trigger on something, it ends up becoming a piece of marketing that people then copy.
Yeah.
Because it has been done to a really good standard.
Yeah.
But what they don't understand is what they see sometimes can't be copied, because it's about the story behind it. So White Fox is building a story as that maverick, as that company that can continually reinvent and put messages out that are engaging time and time again, without looking tacky, because there is a certain tone to what we do, and it's deliberate. And, we can be loud and not lose class. Yeah. And that's because of strategy. Yeah. It's a really hard thing to do, to have your tone of voice and your visual identity so in line with multiple markets, multiple locations, multiple price points, different personalities within the office. That's so hard to do. I was talking to someone about, McDonald's. McDonald's is a, high volume business, and they, will bring out a special burger, the Royale, but it ain't luxury. Yeah. We can sell a luxury home, but we can also do a high volume asset, and still give that feeling of luxury. So we've been able to go the other way. We've been able to bring luxury down to a smaller price point, which I think is so unique and something I'm really proud about, that we haven't turned our nose up at cheaper assets. We represent them just as well as we do with the bigger ones.
Yeah, and I'd imagine there'll be some hurdles to jump over, like marketing budgets for some of the smaller ones and things like that. But when you have that innovation and that more guerrilla sort of approach towards marketing, there's such clever ways to get around that.
Absolutely, and it's relationships. When you've got suppliers all over Australia and New Zealand that want to work with you, that also learn from you. A lot of the times when you're, coming up with a new piece of content that hasn't been done, that supplier is thankful to be part of that process and that journey. It's an incredibly creative business, White Fox. It's not cut and paste. And people go, well, how have you been able to scale? Elements of it are scalable, and elements of it aren't. Yeah. And that's the magic. I can't go and create another HQ. Our HQ is the brains behind the brand.
Yeah. So then when you look at, because I know that you, and this came up through my homework as well, is that you've obviously stopped selling property, but you've got these personalities that are coming through that are so strong from within White Fox as well. How are you seeing these people, and like, what's your recruitment process like to pull some of these people through?
It's funny. It's like, I've had a really interesting upbringing, just, multiple schools, multiple areas, very engaging parents, young, dynamic parents, different schools, very wealthy schools, very poor schools, Catholic schools. So I've seen, a great, diverse bunch of people. So if I think about the recruitment process, we've got over 100 staff now, but I identify talent really, really well. It'd be like asking, I think it's a gift, how to read people and how to see who has something special within them. Some people are great sales directors. Some people are great co-agents. Some are great sales coordinators. So there's so many different positions within White Fox. I spend a lot of time on Instagram looking at people, seeing their body language, looking at their results on TradeMe or realestate.com, understanding their current team structure. I just can spot talent. It'd be like, a scout for a football club. How do they spot an 8-year-old on a field in Mosgiel? Mm-hmm. They just have the ability to see how they are on their feet or how they've moved in a particular way, and they go, wow, there's some natural born talent there. Yeah. I can see that in people when it comes to real estate. Yeah, sure. And probably outside of real estate. If I wasn't in real estate and something else, my gift is knowing where someone might fit. And I don't always get it right, but my strike rate's pretty good.
Yeah. And you can't be 100%.
It's impossible. I mean, it's like that Roger Federer speech. You look at his career, but it was something like, of all the points he's ever played in his career, his percentage of winning is like 52%. Yeah. Just above.
Yeah,
half. Yeah. My strike rate is pretty good.
Yeah. High enough.
High enough to win.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Talk to me about what it's been like. And I don't know whether you feel like you're bridging this gap, but becoming a judge on the block must have been a pretty big shake-up for your personal brand and your recognition on the street and all those sorts of things. What's that been like?
It was a bit of a blessing because when you are that person that people say, oh mate, you've pioneered real estate 2.0 and the social media era of real estate. That's a great thing, but it also came with a lot of negativity. And a lot of people saying, oh, that won't work, not wearing the suit, not doing the auctions for a couple of years, not having a core area, all these things that people would throw at White Fox. And essentially what the block did and the appointment of being a judge, which is, I think, the highest accolade that you can have if you're a property brain, you're the property expert on the number one show. Maths and the block are still the number one and two shows in the country.
Maths is off limits, unfortunately, for you, though.
Huh?
Maths is going to be a struggle for you.
Mate, it wouldn't go near it. I could be a judge on that. I've held a relationship together for bloody 18 years.
That's a good point, actually. That's a good point. I meant more as a contestant.
No. I know that's what you meant, but I could be a judge on that. That's for sure. I'd more than comfortably sit there and tell these people where they're going wrong. Just shut the fuck up. Yeah. Sacrifice, go without maybe.
Yeah.
So put the other person first.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the block gave credibility to me in locations where we weren't active. And I think that's a massive thing. So whilst a lot of real estate agents knew who White Fox was, it was about the consumer getting an understanding of who we were. And they don't talk about White Fox a lot, but once they do their research, once an agent goes in and they talk about Marty on the block, well, there's instant credibility there.
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
But I earned that as well.
100%.
It is hard to speak off cuff. It is hard to have cameras in your face. It is hard to have 40 people listening into you, and you don't get a second take. The block is raw. The block is real. The block is genuinely a show where I don't have any exposure to those rooms prior to filming.
Yeah.
So it is genuinely a raw production.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's hard to deliver. It's hard to navigate TV. I'm not a TV guy.
Yeah.
I am now, but that's all learning on the job.
Yeah, sure. Speak to that a little bit if it's okay, because obviously your personal brand is so strong. Is that something that just comes naturally to you? Do you like the spotlight, or is it the opposite?
I'm comfortable with my life. Yeah. I'm comfortable with my interests. I love property. I love spending time with my family. Family are in the business. I've got a lot of things. I've always been that guy. If I'm driving, I'll never forget it. When I got my Toyota Corolla, it was the best Corolla on the planet.
Yeah.
Loved it. My 1-bedroom apartment was the best 1-bedroom on the planet. And whatever I've got at that point in time, I've got this great ability to love it. I love what I have. And if I want more, which more is just growth. So as long as I'm growing and things are happening and responsibilities are growing and things are getting, harder in some areas, easier in others. That for me is just like this constant cracking of the code of life. So for me, it's just like, I love what I've got, but I also like the process of unlocking something that I don't. If I get it, great. If I don't, I'm still happy.
Yeah.
So I think there's this thing in my head. It's almost like I can't lose.
Yeah.
Because when you come from nothing, I mean, what is there to lose? It's like when people lose a listing or they lose a client. Losing a client's hard because they were a client.
Yeah.
But losing a listing that you never had, well, you never lost it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I see agents get all upset about losing a listing or anything. If you've never had it, then you shouldn't sweat it.
Makes so much sense.
So much sense.
Yeah.
But if you've lost something that you value because you haven't given it attention, you haven't watered the plant, like that sits on you.
Yeah.
So if you've lost something that you once loved, I think you've only got yourself to blame.
Yeah. And so talk to me about then the role that the things that you love, like your family and stuff like that, plan this. I'd imagine you need to have a pretty serious running mate in Charlotte, and obviously that you hold her in extremely high regards. It's obvious across everything that you do. Them and your family, I can imagine your life knowing how busy I am with what I do. I'd imagine your life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, and you have testing periods and busy periods.
Always. Like, I mean, for 7 days, I haven't seen the kids, you know, between traveling to Christchurch and then going to the block. I wasn't seeing the kids for 7 days. So I'll give you an example of how I move and shift things around to fall back into my life. So after Christchurch, I meant to fly back into Melbourne, go to the block and film for 3 days. Myself and my wife were heading down, have some couple time. 3 days, they paid for a hotel and great. But then I was like, fuck, I'm going to miss the kids, right? Really, really will. So had a chat to Charlotte. We're like, okay, fuck, what are we going to do here? Anyway, long story short, Charlotte said that she wouldn't come. Maybe I was going to take Dad. What we've ended up doing is saying, okay, do you know what? We're not going to stay at that hotel. Called the block. We're now staying at a house, a little cottage. Mum's coming with the kids and Charlotte, and we're all going to be together.
Yeah.
So it's just being nimble enough to just crack codes as you go. And it's never all, you know, sunshine and rainbows, because, you know, there's been times when, you know, I've had to do 12 months of, seeing a psychologist with Charlotte, you know, particularly through COVID. Yeah. You know, that was a really difficult thing to try and crack the code on. You got to go to the gym for your biceps. Sometimes you got to see a psychologist to go to the gym for your brain. Yeah. How do you navigate things that you just don't understand how to crack? So, you know, I don't have the answers for everything, but I know where I need to go to try and get them. You know, 2 years ago, I was really in a phase like what we were discussing outside. I was in this shoulder period. I stopped selling real estate. I became a CEO. There was 15 odd staff. A whole bunch left the business because they came to the business to work with me whilst I was an agent. Yeah. And then maybe the team went down to sort of like 9 people, and I'm this CEO. CEO of what? Yeah. CEO of fuck all. Yeah. Fuck all. Yeah. But I put myself in that position to learn. I then went on a retreat called Gwingana, which was a recommendation from one of the guys in the office. Mm-hmm. And I went to Gwingana, no phone, no kids, no Charlotte, no nothing. And I learnt about my body. I learnt about my mind. I read a great book, Shoe Dog, the Nike founder. Yeah. What a game changer. And something happened in that 7 days that I was away, and things clicked. Like, my adrenals calmed down, and I learnt how to self-regulate a little bit better. Yep. Because, you know, when you're running for 7 to 10 years like I was, dealing with people, their assets, you know, selling is pretty hectic. Yeah. It's not always for money. It's for divorce, you know, death, financial, you know, losses. Like, there's a lot of things that aren't that pretty. So I had to go and learn how to regulate my adrenals. Yeah. And that was a game changer. And as soon as I did that, I came back and I was able to rebuild myself, rebuild the business, and get it to a point in 3 years where, you know, we'll do a huge amount of revenue compared to where we were only 3 years ago, and have removed that key person risk. So I think what you can take out of that is, if you can crack the code on yourself and realize that you're never perfect and that you're always constantly learning, you're going to be able to teach others. And I feel like I've taught a lot of people over my years, but I've taught a hell of a lot more over the last 3.
Yeah.
Once I'd learned a little bit more.
Sure. And obviously that expansion has been something that's gone from it's just been fast.
Mate,
Since then,
2
right?
offices to 13.
Yeah.
And, 13 offices that are, majorly owned by the parent company, which we own.
Yeah.
That parent company holds all the IP in HQ and all the people that support these offices. It's a phenomenal setup. It's a setup that I haven't seen done in real estate, where you're giving, people in these locations the ability to be business owners maybe 5-10 years before they were actually at that point of being able to do it.
Yeah.
Again, it's spotting that talent. It's getting that person into the academy at Chelsea at 12 years of age, as opposed to getting them on at 18. We're getting people in at 25, 28, 32, when in their current setups, they probably won't get to those levels of autonomy for another 10 years.
Yeah.
So I'm backing people and they're backing the brand, and we're partnering up, and we're doing it in a way that is so organic, so raw, but so polished that it is infiltrating markets and price points that no other brand has been able to do ever before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the vision is, I want to build the first privately owned luxury brand in the northern and southern hemisphere.
Yeah.
And to do that, it takes precision. And I feel that we are doing it in a way which is incredibly precise.
Yeah. I know, kill me if I don't ask you, but talk to me a little bit about finding Tom and what you saw in him for the Christchurch office.
Charisma, precision, great tone, a great look. I knew he had the magic. He has something that you're born with. And when you're born with something that can't be replicated, he can't be replicated. So if he had the tools and he had the support and he had the backing of a team that is rock solid, like, you've got to understand, my CFO I met in Dunedin at 15.
Yeah.
We've been mates for 22 years. My brother's my CMO. I've known him for 35 years. Okay. They're 2 of the most important positions alongside the CEO, who's the visionary, who's the one that will continue to push and go until the death. Like, you just, those 3 positions, if those 3 positions and their teams can back someone with talent, can back someone with work ethic, and can back someone that can absorb the brand's pillars of what we do to unlock wealth and to bring a brand into a location, that's the combination. Yeah. And with Tom, he, not everyone is charismatic. We've got sales directors that aren't super charismatic, but they've got other traits. Tom jumped out of the screen, and I saw him on Instagram, and there was a lot that he did, which was emulating things that I had done, but they were still uniquely him. A lot of people have copied me over the years, and I've been like, fuck, how's this? What a rip-off artist. Yeah. But how he did it was pure class. Yeah. And I just went, he's the guy.
So, that's awesome. I mean, what a great testament to him.
He is a future leader of the game. Yeah. He will have an incredible business.
I know that we're time conscious, so I've kind of got one key question.
When I'm not ready, I'll let you know.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I know that we're meant to be going for another 10. Yeah. But if it's flowing as it is, then dinner can wait.
Thank you, mate. Is this all just super overwhelming for your points?
Not at all. Not even a little bit.
Love it.
Built for it.
Yeah, that's wicked. What an attitude.
I'm never overwhelmed.
And
the more hectic it is, the calmer I am.
Yeah.
When things are calm, my wife's fucking all over the place, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no. Sorry, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
When things are hectic, Charlotte's all over the place, I'm calm.
Yeah.
When things are calm, I'm hectic and all over the place.
Yeah.
And she's the one that's calm.
I have the exact same problem.
It's a perfect balance.
Yeah.
It's like when shit is serious, I'm as cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
But if things are all smooth and easy and there's nothing happening, mate, like I'm hectic.
Yeah.
So I'm built for this. This is my happy place.
What an exceptional attitude to have. I'm sure that just
love it.
Yeah, love it. And so I suppose probably the big thing to ask is I saw a video you posted yesterday about this growth and stabilizing and these cycles you're going through.
Do you like that video?
I love the video. Yeah.
I can't believe it was 6 minutes of just a rant. But that's the thing. If the question's there, I do like to unpack it.
Yeah.
And try and share where things are going.
Yeah. So talk to me about that then. Talk to me about these steps that you're going on. So we're expanding, we're opening a few offices. What is your process you go through around finding stable ground in between these periods of growth? Like what we spoke about before, where you mentioned that CEO of 9 people thing. I think that's that's very aligned with where I am currently.
Well, it's imposter syndrome because you're like, well, what am I? Who am I? I'm not comfortable where things are at. So when I had that 1.5 to 2 years of being very uncomfortable as a CEO and feeling like a little bit of a phony, and particularly a real estate CEO, like it's a bit like, fuck, really? Like, come on, mate. I had to focus on my health. So what got me through that period was revenue was down. My personal income was down. I was a $2 to $3 million writer every single year. And I went cold turkey. So not a dollar. But I then found income through flipping. So Charlotte and I just really ramped up the properties that we flipped. We were flipping $3 million houses. We started flipping $7 million houses. Yep. So I was able to claw it back that way. And through that period, my focus then turned on my health. So I went, extremely conscious on mind, body, spirit. And that is what then lifted me through to the point where now we're doing what we're doing. So for you, it's like you got to, maybe internalize and just realize that it will come right with maturity. Yeah. And maturity doesn't have to be 10 years. Businesses can mature and you can mature significantly in 1 to 2 years. That's a major, major thing. Yeah. Where I'm at now is realizing that what's gotten me to this point in time, the things that I was doing, the 80-20 rule, 80% of what I'm doing now probably won't get me to where I see WHITEFOX in 5 years. Yeah. What will get me to that point is the 20% that I'm doing. Those 20, that 20%, which is pure magic. If I can try and get that up into that 80% bracket, where we are in 5 years is going to happen. Yeah. Which is 10 to 15 offices in blue chip locations across New Zealand, 25 to 30 offices in Australia, 3 in Europe, 1 in Dubai, 1 in Asia, and probably $250 million company. That is what will happen as long as I can crack the code on taking my 20% activities and increasing them into the 80. And I know exactly what those things are. Yeah. Because I'm doing them now. I just have to flip them.
So is your process for doing that then finding people to take over the 80%?
100%.
Yeah, sure. And 100%. Just that talent spotting again.
Talent spotting.
Yeah.
So again, it's a people game. Yeah. But finding those people and also knowing that you're going to lose people along the way. Like, I'm sorry, but look at how many, if you speak to a real estate agent right now, and this is really good for business owners to know, a lot of sales are because of divorces. Like divorces are the most common reason. In the luxury market, 3 million plus, divorce. It just happens. It's stress, it's children, it's finances. It just happens. It's love. There's no rule book. There's no right or wrong, right? So if people can get hundreds of people together for a wedding ceremony and they sign vows and there's tradition and there's rings involved and there's children and all these different things, if that agreement can be terminated every day, like what we see, well, so can an employment contract. Yeah. So business owners get so caught up on, what if people leave? What do you mean? They're going to leave. They're going to fucking leave. Yeah. So for me, I'm happy with giving people chances, but I'm also very content with people leaving. Leave. It's fine. Because no matter how much IP you've got from my business, you can't implement it. You don't have the resource, you don't have the self-belief, and you don't have the skill. You and I can go and buy Jamie Oliver's cookbook and he can give us the exact recipe to the perfect hamburger. And we can follow the process. Guess what? it ain't going to taste that good. I'm not a chef.
Definitely not like
And
his would.
and he's given me the formula.
Yeah.
So I think business owners probably need to take that into their worlds and realize, give people chances and realize it ain't always going to work out.
Yeah.
But as long as the years are compounding and great people are being added to your employee list, you'll achieve your goals. Don't be so protective of getting the perfect person.
Yeah.
They don't exist.
It's a refreshing attitude. I often feel, and it agitates me a little bit, but I often feel like business owners can be guilty of almost viewing their employees like they owe them something for the opportunity, and it can be a little bit of a dangerous attitude to have.
I reckon you're both coming to the party. I mean, look, there really should be. I mean, the law protects the employee, like how the law protects the tenant over the one that's actually done all the work to fucking get the deposit, to buy the property, to pay the mortgage. You know, it's one of those things. I mean, the employer should be respected. You know, they've put everything on the line. Look at your lease that you're taking. Look at the time, you know, at 6 o'clock. You'd love to be at home bathing your beautiful 8-month-old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you asked me a question, how did I juggle, you know, that I've got 3 little kids. When they were young and when I was out listing and selling, I had an amazing EA who's now a business partner of mine, Lana Samuels. And she'll tell you, if you get her on a podcast, whatever, call her. If we had meetings, we would drive home, we'd park out the front, I'd run inside for half an hour, I would do bed and bath time, and I'd jump back in the car and I'd go back out and list. I wouldn't miss those moments. So I've got no dad guilt. And I think for me, I live guilt-free because I try and do my best when I can. You know, I try not, you know, buy into that temptation, you know, in my 20s to go travel to Europe with the boys and leave Charlotte at home. I would have loved to do that. I would have loved to be with the lads and run with the bulls in Spain. But I knew, if I put myself in that environment, maybe, just maybe, I might buy into temptation. So I've just went, fuck it, I'm just going to stay at home because I'll probably marry this girl. Yeah. And I did. I think we as humans are just like, there's so much temptation everywhere, in business, in taking a shitty deal that might be a quick fix, in hiring someone that, you know, you've got a bad gut feeling, but you still do it anyway. Like, again, that's all temptation. So for me, it's like, just fucking try your hardest to play the long game. Yeah. And I'm seeing the fruits of that labour of saying no a lot.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. What a powerful message. It rings true to me because of my time, and I'm sure there'll be a number of people who are in a similar spot who'll hear that. I think that it's
not easy.
Impulse control.
I mean, fuck. I still have a laugh. Like, shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not some fucking stiff, but you know, there's certain rules that I play by, and I don't break those rules to myself, and I am proud of that now. You know, nearly 40. I feel like I've gotten over that risky period. The risky period is 25 to 35.
Yeah.
That's when things can get a little bit wobbly.
Yeah. And
they have gotten wobbly. But you got to stabilize and fucking just get to the bottom of that hill.
Yeah. Yeah. I won't ask what the rules are, but what I am interested in is...
Well, everyone's rules are different.
Yeah.
You know, like your rules might be different to mine, but my rules work for me. Yeah. My rules work for my wife. My rules work for my family, and my rules work for my business partners and my staff. Like, my rules are clear.
Yeah.
But I also think those rules are sacred. Everyone's rules should be sacred.
Yeah. Yeah. I think probably the big thing that I've really taken from it is it's that patience, that impulse control, but also there's a prioritization that comes across. You have this certainty which oozes out of what you say, but you also have this other people first thing that I think is really refreshing to hear, where a business owner has achieved what you've achieved. It'd be really easy to not only think that you're built for it like you do, but also think that you're better than everyone around you as a result, and everyone should pander to what you do. And that is a really tough balance to have, where there's confidence, but without this, like, I'm the guy everyone should just praise the ground I walk on thing, which is super refreshing. Yeah.
That's because, you know, I learnt the art of negotiation really early. And the art of negotiation was to win-win.
Yeah.
There is not a win-lose mentality. And I think that there's no reason why I can't win and you can win. I'm always trying to figure out how can we both benefit out of this current situation.
Yeah.
And I've become very good at figuring that out. Understanding what does someone want and what do I want without us both having to let go of something that we really value. That's hard. That's called compromise.
Yeah.
So if you know how to compromise and not feel like you've lost, well, you've both won.
And you're not going to be able to achieve win-win without compromise.
Correct.
You can't get 100% of what you want and they get 100% of what they want.
So in order to learn the art of having to do that time in, and this is every day, everything is negotiation, getting your kids ready for school, trying to have a cheeky night out with the boys,
Yeah.
trying to get your mum to come stay over so you can have date night.
Yeah.
It is a constant negotiation, right? What can I do for them to be able to get this for me?
Yeah.
It's give and take. And just start with figuring out what they want. If you know what someone wants, well then you just find a way to give it.
Yeah, sure. I have a closing question tradition that I've asked every guest that's come on the show so far. We've had a few varying responses to it. I'm really interested to hear what yours is going to be. If you could do your time again, what is one thing that you would do differently?
Nothing. Absolutely not a single thing. I never, ever, ever live in regret. Ever. Some of the best lessons have come from some of my biggest fuck-ups. But I'll never let a fuck-up change the course of my life. I'll make errors on things that I can afford to lose. I will never put something at risk that I value so high, ever.
Sure.
And that is just, again, coming back to knowing what do you want. If you don't know what you want, you got to sit down with a pad and pen and write it out pretty fucking quick.
Yeah.
Not in your notes on your phone, write it out old school.
Yeah.
And do that now.
What a banger of an episode. Mate, that was, I feel like I've learned more than in this last conversation. And thanks for tailoring some of it to what I do. Is there anything closing you'd like to say to anyone that's listening or anything like that?
I just think the big thing is to be very grateful that, you are a one of one. There is no replica of you. Maybe if you're a twin, but again, it's, fuck, don't listen to this episode. And just back yourself.
Yeah.
And realize that the heat's good. If you want to do something that's noteworthy and revered, you're going to get heat. And if you don't want to do something that's, going to give heat, that's fine too.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Just do what makes you happy, but not at the detriment of someone else losing. That's a big one.
Nice. Hey, as I mentioned at the start, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy guy. Means the world to me. I'm sure it'll mean the world to the listeners as well. If on the off chance someone that's listening to this doesn't follow you or keep up with what you're doing, where should they find you?
Just Marty Fox 01 on Instagram. Follow WHITEFOX. And yeah, thank you. Appreciate the time.
Appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much.
Legend.
Hey, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening. That's an episode that's going to take me a while to digest. So I'm going to make sure I go give it a listen back after this. Make sure you check us out on social medias, subscribe to YouTube and Spotify, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks again, mate. I appreciate it.